This show is not intended for the politically correct or the closed-minded. Enter at the risk of opening your eyes. You have been warned.
Why does the media attack an issue? To get primetime ratings?
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
A moment comes when we step out from the old to the new, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance.
The kind of catapult of propaganda.
You are listening to Open Eyes with your host, Ira Robinson. From the normal to the paranormal, from government cover-ups to the depths of our consciousness, we aim to explore all things. From the dawn of prehistory to current events, no topic is forbidden and nothing remains hidden.
No more secrets.
Open your eyes and open your mind to the fact that life as we know it is not as we have been taught. Join us at latenightinthemidlands.com or openeyesnetwork.com as we take this brief journey through the depths of the cosmos and explore what it really means to be human.
Many peoples have sacrificed their liberties, only to learn to their sorrow that deceit and mockery, poverty and tyranny are their reward.
Whether you're online or offline, intercontinental or intergalactic, hello, and welcome to Open Eyes. Today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2015. Tonight I have with me Maggie Hart. You guys have heard her on my show before, and I know that if you listen to Late Night in the Midlands, you've heard her on there as well a couple of times. She is coming tonight to give a vision that she has had, and it's essentially what you could term a vision of the end, with a little caveat to that, you could say. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring her on with this actually is the first time that she will be revealing this vision to the mass public. She's only spoken about it to a couple of people previously. And the reason why she's bringing it to my show is because in talking to her about this vision that she had, we came to the realization that it actually matches almost word for word a vision that I had as well 4 years ago. So it's an interesting, it's an interesting thing to me to know that I'm not the only one that has experienced this particular vision of things to come, and that there actually are other people that are out there that are having this type of thing happen to them as well. So I wanted to really make sure that you guys heard it. I was able to convince her to speak about it. She was rather concerned with revealing it publicly because there is the possibility of people taking it in a negative way. And that's not really the intention with it. And that's not something that she wanted to have happen, basically. You know, Maggie, she's all about positivity. She's all about focusing on the good things in life whenever is possible. So I'm grateful, though, that she came to me to speak to me about it. And I'm glad that she came onto the show tonight to reveal the information. So I hope that you guys get a lot out of it. I hope that you take it in the spirit at which it was intended. And I hope that you guys will run with it, basically. And maybe if you guys have had similar visions or thoughts or whatever you want to say of the end, we really would like to hear about it. So that'll be after the first break. I'll be bringing her on. Now, in the meantime, I have some news for you guys. This actually has been a really big week as far as news goes, hasn't it? I brought you the information on Monday about Google changing their algorithms to become the new truth speakers, I guess you could say, at least their idea of truth. And I got a lot of feedback about that with concerns, understandably so. And I'm definitely going to speak about it again. I think I might cover it a little bit more on Friday, but I definitely will next week. And I'll let you guys know as that stuff gets scheduled. But I also, in all of the net neutrality stuff and all of the Obamacare stuff, I ran across something that was released on Tuesday that there has not been a lot of information regarding coming out yet. But it's something that Ovomit, our trader-in-chief, is attempting or is going to be attempting. And I wanted to make sure that you guys heard about it loud and clear. So here's the article that I ran across. President Barack Obama today, Tuesday, introduced his plan for a progressive takeover of state and local policing. A quote from him says, "We have a great opportunity to really transform how we think about community law enforcement relations. We need to seize that opportunity. This is something that I'm going to stay focused on in the months to come." Obama said as he touted his new interim report from his task force on 21st century policing, also instructed the media allies to help a federalization of policing and to sideline critics of centralized policing rules. A final quote from him, "I expect our friends in the media to really focus on what's in this report and pay attention to it." Well, most certainly people should be paying attention to it, especially in light of this information that he is now going to be attempting to take over law enforcement on a national level, both state and local. A federalized police force. Now, this is trouble, guys. This is absolute trouble. We've been speaking a long time about the way that this country is heading and the things that are coming down the pipeline at us. And this is something that you guys need to watch right here, right now. We lost on net neutrality because people did not pay attention to the issues. People did not pay attention and did not cry out about it loud enough. Those who did were small enough voices that they were able to be ignored. This right here, you can see where they're heading. You can see where they're going with this. Look, this is no coincidence. Once again, just like the Google issue of them talking about the takeover of stuff, of the truth, Obama last week on the same day, not even 12 hours after net neutrality regulations were announced as having passed, saying that he's going to ban AR-15 ammo by executive order. Now you have him coming out saying that on a federal level, they're going to take over policing nationwide, federally. So no more local law enforcement, no more county sheriffs, no more blah, blah, blah. It's all going to be federal police officers. That's what they're aiming for with this. And again, this is no coincidence that this comes after the net neutrality stuff gets put into place. This timing is not coincidental. This timing is done intentionally because they're going to do everything that they can do. Listen to what he said right there. We expect our media partners to blah, 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 blah. They're working towards this takeover, and they're going to make sure that we, the American people, that we, the people, do not have a voice to be able to say no. The fact is that the president, I hate to use that term, this man has done everything that he can do to show his true colors. He has done everything that he can do to eradicate American freedom, running on the heels, of course, of his predecessor, who did the starting gun in the events that occurred after the false flag of 9/11. Now you have this guy who has done everything that he can do to enact change, hope and change. Yeah, he's definitely changed things all right, and he's going to continue changing things. He's going to make sure that his presidency is the last one that was considered to be a bastion of freedom, basically. You know, this is going to be the end run, basically, for the powers that be. I can very easily see this guy being in place for a long time to come by making it so that he doesn't have to leave. And of course, the people are going to continue bowing and scraping to this guy because nobody's calling him out on this. I mean, yes, we in the alternative aspect of things, we on the quote-unquote fringy side of things are speaking about it. We're calling out about it. But are our voices being heard? Are they nationally, you know, doing anything to enact changes to the way that he's doing things? No. It's business as usual. And it's going to continue being business as usual until we rise up against this crap. So we got Obamacare, we got ObamaNet, and now he's working on Obama law. And next, they're going to be working on Obama medical, you know, I mean, the Obama vaccine. This ties into this next story that I have for you guys here. Over the past couple of days, there has been a petition on the whitehouse.gov site to prohibit mandatory vaccines to be given to anybody. The petition basically says no human being should be forced to be vaccinated against their will and or personal or religious beliefs. I petition against making vaccinations of any kind mandatory. This includes forcing children to be vaccinated to attend public schools, activities, and daycare centers, and this also includes adults working in the public or private sector. The petition has reached 100,000 signatures, which is the amount of signatures that are needed in order to have some sort of response done by the government, by the administration. Now, whether or not they do this response or not is neither here nor there. I think that they will likely say that that there likely will be no response. But the thing that I thought was interesting with this story is the fact that with this petition, they did everything that they could to shenanigans their way out of being able to get the 100,000 signatures. The signatures froze basically at 50,000 signatures, and while you could still add your signature onto it, it would not count. And once it did start counting again, it only would add 100 per hour. So there was a lot of finagling and shenanigans that were going on with it. So the fact that this happened and the fact that there were enough signatures to come to a response with this, it reminds me of a quote from one of our founding fathers named Benjamin Rush. The quote from him says, "The Constitution of this Republic should make special provisions for medical freedom. To restrict the art of healing to one class will constitute the Bastille of medical science. All such laws are un-American and despotic. Unless we put medical freedom into the Constitution, the time will come when medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship and force people who wish doctors and treatment of their own choice to submit to only what the dictating outfit offers." And that, my friends, is exactly what you see happening right here, right now, especially since Obamacare got passed. It's a mess. So listen, guys, I need to take a break. I would love to go on with that for another hour, and I'll probably touch on that again here real soon. But I do need to take this break because I have this interview with Maggie, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. I think that you're going to get a lot of information out of it. So be sure to stick around with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes after this break.
So I want to challenge you all about what you think you know. You think that you're a human being and you know the way the world works, but I'm here to burst that bubble.
All of us are energy. A human being is a very complex pattern of energy.
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward.
Much more important to teach children to question what they read. Children should be taught to question everything. Children should be taught to question authority. Parents never teach their children to question authority because parents are authority figures themselves.
Like it or not, for the moment, the earth is where we make our stand.
It's just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. A choice right now between fear and love.
Because to be awoken means you're doing the work here to change this world right here in the now where you're at now. From where you're at now.
The eyes of fear want you to put bigger locks on your door, buy guns, close yourself off. The eyes of love instead see all of us as one.
It underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
But I'm exactly where I wanted to be because I realized I got to commit my very being to this thing. I gotta breathe it, I gotta eat it, I gotta sleep it. And until you get there, you'll never be successful in life. But once you get there, I guarantee you, the world is yours. The world is yours.
Hello and welcome back to Open Eyes. Thank you so much for sticking around through that break. As I mentioned before the commercial break there, we have our guest tonight, Maggie Hart. Maggie, hello there. How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you, Ira. How are you?
I am so far so good.
It's great to be back. I love this network.
I'm so glad to have you on again. I've really missed having you on, and I want to have you on more often, definitely.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you. I would appreciate the opportunity. It's always a fun time.
Definitely. We wanted to talk tonight about, well, something major that you've seen as far as visions are concerned. But before we get to that, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and, you know, kind of a brief bio, I guess you could say, however you want to put it. That way people know who you are and where you're coming from.
Okay, sure. Basically, I was born gifted. My grandmothers on both sides were gifted. One in Italy, one in Ireland. And the Italian grandma had some healing abilities, and, you know, in her village, she would do card readings and healings and tea leaves and things like that for people. And on the Celtic side, you know, that grandmother the same way. Raised through childhood as a strict Roman Catholic. I was raised and told to pretty much that I didn't have any of the abilities that I had. You know, if I saw something at nighttime, I was told that it was just my imagination until I got to be about 14. And I know the viewers, or listeners rather, fully know the story by now. They've heard it a bunch of times. But at around 14 years of age, my grandmother came forward to me and said, listen, you are gifted. You have been seeing these things all your life. It runs on both sides of the family. And I did still keep it to myself until several years ago when I decided to come public, because I wanted to be able to help more people on a wider level and, be able to share the gifts that were given to me to as many people as I could, to be able to touch and help as many people as I could, because, that's truly what I'm here for, I believe. So I'm empathic, which means I feel people's emotions. Clairaudient, which means that I see the future. Clairvoyant, which means that I see the future. Clairaudient, which means that I hear voices. Also a medium. I do have some telepathic abilities and some healing abilities as well, which were enhanced by Reiki's level 1 and 2. However, I do have what runs in my family is kind of a natural ability to touch people and take away their pain a lot of the times and make them feel better. So I've been doing a lot of private work, a lot of work with people with cancer, children who cut, people who have anxiety and depressive disorders, bipolar disorders, things like that. And I do some select shows where I do readings. My energy flows best face-to-face when I'm able to hold someone's hand. I do utilize cards in my readings, although I don't need to. When you shuffle the cards, you put your energy into the cards, so the cards that are drawn are specifically pertaining to you. And people, I find, like something entertaining to look at when they're getting a reading. So, typically I will use the cards, however, I don't need to. It's basically just a transference of energy and, what I pick up from that person's aura and energy, their emotions. And very typically I feel what they're feeling, in the course of a reading. And it's really nice to be able to connect people with family members and friends that have passed over. That's one of my favorite things, is when I'm able to connect someone with a loved one from the other side. I think that's just a beautiful way to allow them to revisit that person. And everyone has these gifts inside of us. It's just a matter of how we develop them. And it's very important to learn how to protect ourselves when we open up these gifts. But everybody has the ability to do the things that I do. And, I really would like to take the stigma out of a lot of that, too. That's one of my goals also is, it was such a closed subject for so many years, and now that it's become trendy with ghost hunters, and by the way, I do ghost hunting and investigation as well. I have a great team, and I really love to do that. But yeah, that's basically it. Everybody has these abilities, and especially with the things that are happening in our Earth and on the planet, I think it's really important that we all try to develop these abilities. So that, if we have an inherent healing, let's say, gift, we could use it for the better good of others, and we can help each other that way,
I absolutely agree with that myself.
Yeah,
It's funny how much your abilities and mine run sort of parallel to each other. It really is. I find that fascinating myself, because I've never met anybody who's been able to do the things that I can do until I ran across you, and it's really weird. Well, I mean, like the whole package, I guess you could say.
Right.
I've met people that are empathic. I've met people that could see ghosts, but I've never really met somebody that had all of the things kind of combined together. And I find it fascinating to talk to you, just because, wow, it's so cool to interact with somebody else that knows where I'm coming from with all of it and doesn't look at me like I'm insane.
Right. Other people look at the two of us like we're insane, but, no, I think it's fascinating. And the more that we speak, and again, I think this is a very important message to share with people is, I've seen repeatedly in my visions that, we're being drawn to like-minded individuals especially now, and I've said this before in interviews, much harder and faster than ever before. And there's a reason for this. We're all interconnected. And the people that we're being drawn to, especially now and as quickly as we are in this period of our life and of the planet, I feel is very, very, very important. So, network with others. When you meet that person happenstance, thank the higher powers for bringing that person into your life. I'm so appreciative of you and Michael and the network and being able to connect with the wonderful people that you have in your chat room. They're all such amazing people.
They are.
And, they really are. And I don't sugarcoat, and I don't say things I don't mean, but you've got a really awesome group of people there. And, the fact that they've come together and they share information and links back and forth. And, people like Adana jump on my page and pick on me time to time, it's really a beautiful thing. And we're being called together for a reason. It's to help each other. It's to network. It's to, just become strong together and utilize each other's talents and abilities and strengths, to make us all stronger as a whole, I believe.
I absolutely believe that as well. I got a question for you. Maybe you can shed some light on something that I've wondered with what you're speaking about there, the fact that we're kind of being called to come together. I totally agree with. I've felt that over the years as well myself. I wonder how much of the people that we're encountering or that we're being drawn to maybe are actual past life people that we were involved with.
Absolutely.
How many people actually on the planet Earth right now are gathered together? I don't know. I guess is there an amount of souls? This is the total amount of souls that are available, and now all of these souls are here to enter into this kind of quote unquote final countdown or final conflict or whatever you want to say, anything along those lines. What do you think about that?
I think that once again, we're on the same page. I think we're definitely siblings from another mother. I've gotten this repeatedly. I'm getting chills right now as I'm listening to you verbalize this because, quite honestly, this is what we're encountering now. What we're about to encounter is the ultimate battle for good versus evil, I feel, from the messages that I've received from the angels and my higher powers. And, whether or not you believe in, and I'm careful with this, whether or not you believe in past lives or parallel lives, which is the theory that we're living all of these lives on multiple planes at the very same time.
I believe that, by the way, actually myself.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, either way you cut the bread, we have encountered these souls in our different experiences, whether they be past or parallel lives. And throughout the course of these experiences, we do have what I believe is the same essential pod or soul family. And those people do recur with us lifetime to lifetime. The relationships, however, change. One relationship, like this one with you and I, this one we're currently friends. In a past life, we may have been cousins, or you may have been my dad and I may have been your daughter,
right.
Or we may have been husband and wife, Those essential soul people, that group, come together, I believe, lifetime to lifetime. The twin flame relationship is totally different, and I do so want to do a show with you on that at some point, but that is what you and your wife have found. That is the epitome of the other half of your soul.
Yeah, most definitely agree there.
And that's just the most beautiful thing. And when I find people and come into contact with people who have found that, such as yourself and your wife Jolene, it's such an incredible feeling. And I want you to know too that with the planet's vibrations rising, and the way that the universe and the higher powers are struggling to help us to raise the vibration so that we can defeat this evil, let's call it, in time. A lot of us are finding our other halves much quicker than before. There were instances before where, you may be on the spiritual plane as the other half of a whole, and your other half was on Earth, let's say, living. And, you could go lifetimes without physically being lucky enough to have that person and encounter them and come together. And, there's that whole debate with twin flames, running away, and, you encounter that person and your souls aren't really quite ready to integrate and be united because one of you hasn't spiritually vibrated to the level you need to be at. So what happens is one of you runs away, and you may come together this lifetime, you may not. But you and your wife were fortunate enough to do so, where the timing, it seems, was very right. And that's why you're locked together and you have the most astounding, beautiful relationship that you have is, it's the right time for you. And I think that final, interlocking and, coming together as a whole and remaining that way is also happening for a lot of people right now. And that's a beautiful thing too.
Yeah, actually, as a side note to that, just to give you, I guess, a verification of that information, what we found out through finding out basically kind of past life information is that actually she had lived at one point in time during my lifetime, but ended up passing away because that life wasn't meant for the two of us to be together, essentially. And when she passed away, she again was born at, into the lifetime that she's in now, grew up, and now we're together, basically. So
because it was the right time.
Because it was the right time, right? Exactly. It was
the right time. And this is honestly, Ira, I feel a lot of us, the mind is so incredibly scientific. It's like a computer. And most of the work that we do and most of the knowledge that we gain is what humans call sleep time. That's where, are you there?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It got really quiet. That's where a lot of us are doing our learning, and we're actually in school during that time. And a lot of us are fighting battles and doing things that we don't recall in our waking life. And, a lot of us are very old souls and we're very tired. And I believe, at least for myself, this is probably the last time I'm going to be here. And I think that a lot of people, whether they recognize it or not consciously, subconsciously know this. And I do believe that too, that it's all predestined. There's a life contract that we agree upon before we come to earth. And in keeping with that, I think that if you really think about it, you'll find that, or at least hopefully agree with me, in that a lot of the people we've seen passing the past several years, passing over, stars, movie stars, people who are close to us, I believe are people who had the soul contract before this lifetime to pass on before this actual conflict comes to be, because they had chosen not to be a part of this battle. They just didn't want to. Does that make sense?
Yes, I was heartbroken with Leonard Nimoy's passing last week.
I know. I felt so horribly about that.
Yeah.
In Search of was, as well as Star Trek, but In Search of, the Loch Ness Monster was like absolutely my favorite episode ever.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
And Bigfoot. That was my second favorite, I've got to admit. But I absolutely loved him. Great loss to the entertainment industry and to sci-fi, and he was very, very much admired by a lot of people. But I honestly feel that that's why we've seen so many, we notice it when it's in the Hollywood industry. Don't you agree that a lot of prominent rock stars and actors have passed on in the past couple of years?
Yeah.
More so than usual.
And especially the ones that are the ones that have done things to help elevate the positivity in the world, basically. You have Leonard Nimoy, for instance, who I think was a definite positive force in the world just based on the things that he did, things that he was involved in. You have Robin Williams. He was a definite positive influence in the world. On and on and on. You see all of these different stars or celebrities or whatever that do have that positive influence, and the ones that have the negative influence still stick around. They're around forever,
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the case, doesn't it?
It really does.
And we both have spoken about this before, you and I, in private conversation. There's good and bad in everyone. There is a balance. It is that yin-yang. Everything is energy. And so what people like he have brought to the world, he still is around. His energy is still here. Sure that there are peers of mine that at some point will maybe channel him or be able to connect with him. It's all about the energy. And that was the other thing too, is I really think that it's important that people understand that the battle that we're about to incur and the things that we've been encountering in this lifetime, particularly with the government and the changes in nations and war and, political things that have really come to the forefront. I'm hearing a lot about the immunization subject the last couple of weeks, especially on Michael's shows. Things like this are being brought to the forefront so that we're being made, it's kind of in your face. We're being forced to be made aware of really what's going on behind the scenes. And energetically, I think that, the vibration again of the planet is being raised, and we're really not able to avoid it or ignore it as much as we were before. Does that statement make sense to you?
Yes, it does. It's like it's like the things have always been on the back of people's minds.
Exactly.
But now at this point, because of the events that are occurring, because we're supposed to be paying attention to this stuff, it's like the consciousness, the information of the consciousness has congealed into these droplets that everybody has to look at. They're now in their eye, the teardrops in the eye, I guess you could say, of information, and you're being forced to look at it. You can't not look at it and still be actually part of the human consciousness. If you can ignore it, essentially you've shut yourself off.
Exactly. And I'd like to preface what I've seen in my visions. And again, I was very hesitant to come out to the public in this, not because I'm afraid of what I've seen and that people will doubt me as far as my abilities go. That's got nothing to do with it. And I want you all to understand that. The reason that I was hesitant to come forward with it is because, again, I'm here to promote positivity. And, there's a fear factor involved in what I'm about to tell you all. And you and I have spoken about that privately as well. And the only thing that I want to say is, as you listen to the show tonight, please just be open-minded and understand that I was raised strict Catholic. I've gotten away from that in that because of some of the things that the Catholic Church is doing politically and governmentally, I became more spiritual. Also because of the fact that I know the soul does not die, which we've talked about before. Right. I kind of was drawn more toward a spiritual belief. However, in light of what I've been seeing the past couple of years, there is a piece of it that elementally I feel is very much having to do with God. Okay, not necessarily Catholicism or Christianity, although there is an essence of that in there. It does have to do with God. So having said that, the only thing that I ask people is that you be open and just listen to what you and I talk about and have an open mind about it. Use your own judgment. Share this knowledge with others. Talk to others about it. See if it resonates with you. And truly, I hope I'm wrong on this one. I've never been wrong yet, but I hope I'm wrong on this one. But still, network yourselves and prepare. It doesn't do any harm to network with each other, to talk about these issues, to do research, and to prepare yourselves just in case. I would really so love to have everybody prepared for what I feel and what I've been shown is about to happen. We can save so many lives together. We really can, Ira.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'd like to say is, before you poo-poo some of the people that are on these shows that Ira and Michael does, I ask that you ask yourselves, why are there proof of, let's say, extinct sea creatures washing up on shores now that we never knew still existed? We thought they'd been extinct for hundreds of years. Or why are there new creatures washing up on the beach, previously undiscovered species? Why are lost continents, tombs being slowly discovered, and scientists are bringing to light. I honestly feel that part of it is that we're being spoon-fed. Part of it is that the powers that be are releasing a little bit of here and there at the time, certainly not the extent of the knowledge that they hold behind the scenes, but we're being able to finally be privy, let's say, to certain parts of certain things. And the other part of it is I think that scientists, again, with the raising of the vibration of the planet, these people have a conscience and they do feel a need to present what they're finding to the general population rather than keeping it locked behind closed governmental doors.
I would agree with that. I would say that it's actually the reason why they're doing it in the pacing that they're doing is more along the lines of the idea of the frog in the boiling water. If they put like we in the masses are the frog, and if they were to reveal all the information at once, basically they just tossed us into the boiling water, we're going to jump right back out again and get all ticked off and why you not reveal this and that kind of thing. But if they reveal it slowly, then it enters into the consciousness slowly, and we can acclimate ourselves basically to the information. I think that's one of the reasons. If that's what is going on, I think that would be the reason why.
I actually believe that too, and I believe part of it though is as we've discussed before and Michael's talked about on his show too, aliens are here among us. Yeah. They're here. There are good and bad ones. They're walking the planet. You don't necessarily recognize them as an otherworldly being or energy, but they are most certainly here. And there are good and bad, just like there are good and bad people. And they are here now. And I believe that, they're preparing us for that to come full force, to come out in the open with it. And, giving us little bits and pieces of information on things like prehistoric sea creatures or tombs or, things like that we wouldn't have normally have believed in otherwise unless we had scientific proof to back it. I think that the alien thing too, you're starting to see more on the websites about sightings. They're not able to keep a lid on it anymore. So now they've got to come open with it. And I think they're just kind of giving that to us a little bit at a time too. And I also believe that, there's the whole Snowden thing, where scientists and people are saying, you know what, I don't care anymore. I want the people to know this. This is something that the general population deserves just as much to know as the guy sitting behind a desk in a governmental office.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense?
There's some that are what would be termed white hatters, instead of the black hatters, they're the white hatters that want to have this information revealed. So they're doing what they can in their own ways, basically, to do it. If they were just to come out and do it, they'd be ostracized, they'd be blacklisted, and so on and so forth. But the little itty bits at a time, it's not really frowned upon that much. And I think that some of it, like the Snowden thing, for instance, I think that as far as the Snowden issue is concerned, I definitely believe everything that he's been coming forward with. Excuse me. But I think that he was actually given the information and told, release this stuff slowly. And he's basically the scapegoat, essentially, that people are looking at and saying, okay, well, this information is being revealed. This is the truth and blah, blah, blah. But this is the stuff that the government actually wanted to reveal, and they're just doing it through him, essentially. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It's a really good point. And I hadn't thought of it that way. Kind of a time release pill type of theory. Yeah, that's really interesting.
That's how I look at it, I guess.
Excuse me.
Oh, no problem. So one thing that I wanted to actually mention as far as this whole information is concerned as well is that the way that I look at things is that information is not negative or positive. It just is. What you do with it is negative or positive. So how you respond to somebody telling you, hey, there's a tidal wave coming, it's your choice basically to stand there and let the tidal wave hit you, or to go and run for cover. It's not on me, for instance, who tells you that the tidal wave is coming to say, okay, well, I'm not being negative for telling you that the tidal wave is coming. I'm just telling you, hey, there's something happening, right? So the information itself is neither negative or positive. You, by revealing any kind of information, are not being negative with it. You're not like downgrading the energy level of the planet, for instance, by revealing the information. All you're doing is saying, hey, this is what I've seen. It's up to you now to decide whether you're going to use this in a good or a bad way, essentially. That's my take on it. I just wanted to kind of toss that out and see what you thought of that.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Because as you know, I had an inner struggle with this for quite some time. Do I tell people? There was previously only, before you, one other person who's become a really close, special friend of mine, that I had told everything to, everything that I had seen. And when they come to me, they come in, it's like I'm watching a mini movie. It's bits and pieces. I get a little fragment or a few minutes at a time. And then the next time it comes to me with more clarity, maybe a little longer episode, let's say, and I believe that they do that with me, so that I don't overload, because, as an empath, and we've discussed this too, I don't just see what's happening. I'm physically feeling like I'm there. I'm smelling the smells, and I'm seeing the sounds, and I'm hearing the noises as though I'm right there in the midst of it. And it's a very lot to digest when you're geared that way, because all 5 of my senses come alive, and I'm in that moment at that time, and to my family sitting here, my eyes are glazed over and I'm not answering any questions. But to me, I'm totally absorbed in what's going on, and I'm just feeling everything with every one of my senses.
Yeah, you're a full participant in the virtual reality, basically, that the vision is giving.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. Trust me, I know exactly how you feel.
We've talked about it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say as well for the listeners that the vision that she's going to talk about, which we'll get to here in just a second, because I know that you want to get it out and just get it over with, pull the Band-Aid off, basically. But I wanted to make sure to also let people know that the vision that Maggie has seen, and I think the reason why she told me about it, basically, is because I've had the exact same vision. I've had a different, maybe chunks of it. I've not had maybe the full everything that she's had or anything like that. Mine is my own personal perspective on the vision, but I've had it as well. And I'm not the only one as well that's had this. So there are a lot of people that are having almost this exact same knowledge being given to them in one way, shape, or form. And we just kind of want to bring this out to people to say, hey, it's time to actually speak about it and let people know that this is what we're seeing. And you guys can do with it whatever you want to do with it from there. You can believe, you can not believe, you can blow us off. You can say, oh, well, they're just full of crap and trying to get garner views or hits on their websites or whatever. That's not the case from our perspective of things. In fact, Maggie doesn't even have a website
really
yet. But the fact is that what we're just trying to do is basically give the word of warning to people, and what people do with it from there is up to them. So if you want to go ahead and start speaking what you've seen with it all, we can just go from there with it.
Okay. Well, on previous interviews, I had said, that basically they torture me. When I get these visions, they had essentially shown me 2 ways, what I would kind of gloss over and say a good way, and then, a bad way things would end. And really, when I think about it, and I just mentioned this to you prior to the interview, it's actually a 3-fold scenario. When I do an interview and people say to me, what's going to happen this year? Again, as a light worker, I hear the voices in my head, promote positivity, explain to people that they need to be positive, they need to network, they need to help each other, they need to community garden, they need to barter more. These are all prefaces for what I've seen to come in visions. This is to start to prepare people, I feel, kind of get their feet wet, network with people, community garden, start to work with your neighbors. Go that extra mile where, you maybe wouldn't have a year ago and spoken to the guy 2 doors down and had a cup of coffee with him and said, hey, can I mow your grass today? Or, I'll fix your roof if you can help me repair my alternator on my car. Things like that I think are just very important as a preface because the whole world needs to come together. So having said that, the first thing that I was geared to and that they were telling me was, promote positivity. Also promote for people to be brave. Do not show fear because when you have a negative or a lower vibration energy or evil, if you'd like to call it that energy, they feed off of your fear. That's what makes them stronger. And that's what gives these beings power. So we need to be brave. We need to be strong. We need to stand together and we need to promote, yes, definitely love and peace and helping each other and finding different ways resourcefully to acquire things that we need without the physical dollar, especially in today's the state of the country financially. So many people are just so financially strapped to go out and even afford groceries for their family. That if we were to work together more and barter more, that would become a non-issue. And the collapse of the money you're going to see happen. And it's not going to matter in 5 years. Trust me, people, if you have a yacht and a boat or a house on the water, what's going to matter to you is your family, your health, and the contacts that you've made, because those are going to be your future community. And that was when I say my visions go both ways. That's where it starts to kind of branch off. So what I feel is that, unfortunately, I don't feel that the planet is vibrating high enough, as quickly enough as the powers that be would like for it to. I know that there's a specific time frame in mind, and we were given X amount of years to complete our mission. And if we didn't, then they were going to force choose for us. Okay. And that's where we're coming to right now. That's what's about to happen. And the 2 ways that I see, are the really, really bad, which is that's it. We're taken over. There are no freedoms. There are no rights. We are essentially a slave race. And it's a horrible, horrible ending that I've seen. And I really don't want to waste too much time on that, because the other one that I've seen is, gosh.
Well, let me just toss it in here real fast that negative thing that you've seen, that outcome right there. If people are paying attention to the events that are going on right now, especially considering the net neutrality thing, Obama just came out today and said that he's going to try to federally take over all of the law enforcement on the state levels and the city levels. State and local levels federally is going to be under their control, on and on and on. This is the exact stuff that they are working towards doing. Yeah, is to gear right towards that ending of that vision. So I just wanted to throw that out there for people real quick.
Well, and again, having said that, believing in my sources, which are angels, guides, ascended masters, energy from other planets, things like that. The higher beings, whatever you choose to believe that they are higher powers, they are higher beings. And what they've shown me is the other way, which is really what I'd like to have people be interested in and understand. Yep. Okay, here's how it starts for me. And Ira, we had talked about this privately. The way that it started for me was I saw a giant fireball in the sky. And about a year ago, I did a public fair, the biggest fair in the state, actually, and I met a Native American man who shared the same prophecy as I. And, the Hopi Indians, many different Native American tribes share the same prophecy. And I have to be honest with you, I haven't researched a lot of this. So I want it to be pure, when I get a vision, I want it to be my vision that I can help people with, now that I'm coming forward with it. But I want you to understand, I haven't watched a lot of shows or listened to a lot of videos on prophecies of, different cultures or Nabaru or things like that. I have heard bits and pieces of it on this network. When I've listened to certain shows, I've watched maybe 1 or 2 YouTube videos, but I haven't been engrossed in it. And it's really important to me that way so that I can stay, in a sense, virginal with my visions. Does that make sense?
That's an absolute great way to do things right there.
Okay.
Because
I didn't want to unconsciously
right.
either, influence what I was seeing. And
right.
I don't watch television as a general rule. So
good.
But so having said that too, for those of you out there who are going to say, oh, she watched that video and now she's thinking, no. Choose to believe that or not, but that's certainly not the case, at least as far as I go. I started out with, I saw this giant fireball in the sky, and empathically I felt so much evil attached to this. And, a lot of things that I see in visions, sometimes it comes to me symbolically. So what I saw were like demons riding on this thing, on the tail of it specifically. Bad energy, evil, badness just coming. And it started to pummel the earth. It was they were balls of fire, and they totally pummeled the earth. Just the earth became on fire, and while this was happening at the same time, they showed me that the evil in the earth had come fully into the open. There was no masking it. There was no hiding it. It wasn't a matter of, a human being acting in bad conscience. It was truly the essence of the spirit or the demon that had taken over. And again, remember, we're all good and bad. So that person's free will allowed the evil to come forth and overtake rather than the good. And, the evil was just totally out in the open. It wasn't a hidden thing anymore. It was essentially the final battle. That was the beginning of what I had seen. And when I talked with this native last year, he was an elder in a longhouse. He doesn't get out much. I can't talk to him. I've been trying to contact him for the past year. I think about him all the time. And I felt recently a very close loss for him and his family. I believe it was his brother. But I so want to talk to that gentleman. I welcome the opportunity to speak to him again and see if time-wise he correlates with what I'm seeing, as many of us, as you are seeing, the same type of prophecies. But so that's how it started for me. I saw this giant fireball. It was the tail of it particularly that was carrying, metaphorically all this evil with it. These fireballs started to pummel the earth. I saw many people die. I saw one of the things that they showed me were actual people sitting in their houses but deceased, still at their kitchen table with the coffee in front of them. For some reason, they were all perishing at the same time as these fireballs were hitting the earth. And then I saw, in graphic detail, the smells, hearing it, seeing it, people literally perishing by the thousands. I hesitate to say by the millions, but it was a large number of people by these fireballs hitting the earth. It was people running, people screaming, people crying, people being trampled. It was 9/11 wasn't even a drop in the bucket. I couldn't even explain. And the closest that I could assimilate it to personally is a couple years ago when I visited Gettysburg, and I saw the bloody wheat field in person, and I saw the thousands of bodies laying there in the field. It was very much like that. Only these people were engulfed by flames, and these were people like you and I. These were families, and it was all over. It wasn't just here. The other thing that I saw, and I neglected to tell you this the other night, and I'm curious to know if you saw this as well. For several years, I've been seeing California and Florida going away. They're not here anymore. And I saw them with flood. I saw flood coming and taking California and Florida and part of the coastline on the east side, but most particularly California and Florida.
Yeah, essentially the West was okay except for California, and the East, basically, a lot of it was gone.
The East Coast, yeah. Well, I talked to my girlfriend in California probably 3 years ago when I first had that. That was the actual start of some of the worldwide prophecies that I was getting, and I said, hey, you know, you need to move out of California because I had this vision. And she's like, I had the same vision. And I said, yeah, Florida too. And she's like, well, I didn't see Florida. I'm like, well, I did. So kind of a difference of psychic opinion there, but it was flooding. It was tsunamis of epic proportion. People were fleeing to the mountains. I've been told that the mountains are going to be the safest places to go. Highest elevations are the safest places to go. But that's what started it, this fireball in the sky and, you know, pretty much havoc and death and destruction. And, you know, again, I feel like I'm coming out with this. I don't want to promote fear in people. What I'm trying to do is have people be aware so that hopefully they'll believe my story, your story, and those of so many others that are having the same types of visions. And just please prepare yourselves and your families for what I believe we're about to endure. And then after that, I did see a period of darkness. And after that, I saw and felt the most intrinsic evil. It was just taste it in your throat, tangible, dirty, awful, foul smell. It was just terrible, terrible faces in my mind of, you know, distorted figures and things and beings, and you and I have spoke about this before too. In visions, you and I see other worlds as well, and creatures that don't exist here, that we haven't physically seen yet on this planet. Same type scenario. The evil and the faces of the creatures that I'd seen were not like any of this earth, but know that they were totally not pure. They were totally evil.
For me, it was the smell was sort of like the smell of a cloying death, like like the smell of natural gas extended out thousands of times, and that it was like in your throat, in your lungs, and you couldn't even breathe because it was like almost like it was no longer oxygen. Basically, you were choking because of it. Exactly. And then visually. You had spoken about seeing children perishing. I think, again, my guides, my beings, my angels, because I'm so closely akin to children, and you being a man probably have a lot stronger stomach than I do, you know, with my life being geared toward helping children, which is why I came out with the books and stuff. They didn't show me. They showed me children, but they showed me entire families. They didn't show me. You specifically mentioned children several times. I don't know if you recall that. Oh, yeah. We were pretty deep in conversation, but, you know, it was entire families. And I think they kind of steered me away from the children because they knew I couldn't stomach it. Does that make sense? Oh, yeah, it definitely does. You're not given anything more than you can truly handle. You know? That's what it comes down to me. Yeah. For me, just to make sure that people understand, for me, my visions basically came to me about 4 years ago, and it was out of the blue. There was nothing that triggered it. It just literally, it came out of the blue. I was fine one day. The next day I'm having these visions. Now, I'm not one who normally has visions, just to clarify for the people out there. I'm not one who normally has visions. I'm not geared that way. So for me to have these was a shock to me, and it really pressed into my mind that this was something absolutely 100% real, that I had to pay attention to this one, you know? For me, what I was shown was, again, the fireball. The most thing that I saw was the horizon being on fire. Like the whole horizon was just lit up in flames everywhere. No matter where you went, everything was on fire. Just everywhere. Bodies burned everywhere, just charred remains everywhere. I was shown like actually one of the fireballs impacting the earth, and that the impact was in an area where a lot of children were gathered. And I have, looking back on things, I think that it was like towards a really major school, basically, and that the children were outside, and it was like somewhat of a summer's day or like a late spring day, basically, and that the impact lit everything. Basically, it was like a wave of fire, almost like a nuclear kind of an incident, but not entirely. But the children just being caught in these flames and just vaporizing, basically. And the thing that I was given the most was this image of this little girl, and this is the one that stuck with me the most. This image of this little girl who was running towards me, and the fire caught up with her, and as she was being vaporized, her arms extended outward like she was screaming for help, and just the face, you know, I'm just almost in tears.
The feeling of helplessness
yes
was just so intense, and it just...
It was just, and then the fire washed over me, and I was transferred to a different section of the vision, basically. So that's kind of like how mine went. Basically, I was shown these individual things. I wasn't shown maybe like the entirety of families. I wasn't given like a bird's eye, top down view sort of thing. Mine was much more of a personal level, where I was being shown over and over again different incidents of these things coming down and impacting, and being shown the results basically of that impact, essentially.
Okay, now see, with me it was a little different in that I specifically mentioned the people sitting at the kitchen table, but black, charred.
Right. So you were, it's like I was shown the impact of it, and you were shown sort of the after image, the after effect of it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them hitting the earth, and I saw the earth being engulfed in flames, and I saw the people running and screaming and yelling. But then symbolically, think about this. If a fireball hit a house, the house is going to catch on fire, right? Okay. So what I'm seeing now, a different part of the vision is like a kitchen table. There are like two people having coffee, like say breakfast or whatever, across from the table, and they're charred. So that to me was symbolism. Obviously, if the fireball hit, the house would be engulfed in flames. The whole house would have gone up.
Right.
This was important to me because it signified what they showed me later on, which was after all this happens. And let me backstep a little bit. After the fireball is when the darkness hit, and it was very, very dark out, and it was just so incredibly scary. The evil was just all around. Yes. I couldn't escape it. It was everywhere, and I was just absolutely terrified. And I'm not one that is afraid of very much as a general rule. But the energy of everything that was around me, the people that had survived, was just sheer and utter terror that the evil was here on our planet, and that we were all going to perish from said evil. Okay? So then, jumping forward, after the darkness was over, we gathered. You know, we got all our stuff, and we just, like, moved. Okay? And we went. I was directed to go toward the mountains. I was shown 3 places that I had known of, 2 places that I had known of in childhood, and one that I had previously resided in the mountains. And it was significant to me because they said to me, all 3 of these have well water. That's important. You need natural or well water. City water is not going to be good anymore.
Which would make sense if the infrastructure falls apart, then there's not going to be anything around to clean the water that would come out of the tap and that sort of thing.
Right. So that's why I feel I was shown it that way. And then after that, I found one of these places. I kind of settled in, and I was shown, like, I was in a different location though. So, but it wasn't far by. It was almost like a basement, like a concrete somebody's basement. And there were a bunch of us together. And I was doing healing work. There were people like spread out on tables that were wounded and bleeding. There was another person at the next table doing physical medical work, first aid, sutures, things like that. There were a couple of guys walking around with guns who were kind of patrolling the inside of the building, and they'd go like almost on rounds outside of the building, making sure that everything was safe. There was a person with, there were just tons and tons of canned goods, and they were cooking for this little community is how I saw it that we had going on. And there was another person that was, we were in the basement, but they were starting to grow seeds and vegetables. And then they showed me later, it was almost like a commune setting. It was outside gardening, harvesting crops. And I know you specifically mentioned this too, and foraging and going through the woods. But my vision showed us going like houses. The houses were abandoned, okay, but they weren't abandoned. And that's where the first part of my vision with the people comes into play. We were going into houses and essentially finding things that we needed in houses of people that had perished.
Right.
And I think that's why they showed it to me as they did symbolically. The people were dead, but they were still sitting at the table. And there were still things of use in the home. And basically we were just gathering up what we could and bringing them back to where we were. And it was almost like a Gone with the Wind type, just constantly I was helping, I was healing, I was helping, I was healing. There was another one of us that there were a group of children, helping children and letting the children be children, play simple games and, have fun and things like that. And one of the things that I've been seeing repeatedly in my visions for a couple of years now, too, let me add, is they've been telling me to collect books. Go to used bookstores. A lot of the books that I'm finding, I think, they've told me anyway, are either no longer in print or not being made aware or made available to the general public. It's my belief that a lot of the holistic and healing books are being taken out of bookstores.
They absolutely are. Yes.
Okay, and taken out of. I think they're being destroyed. And what they showed me was, I had read an article years ago about, I don't even remember where it was, but it was like a schoolyard or a church, and they were burning a pile of books. That was symbolic to me. That was them showing me the people taking up the books that they didn't want us to have and getting rid of them and destroying them.
Yeah.
And, so for the past couple of years, they've been like, every 2 to 3 months, there's this one bookstore, and I'll go to work and I'll go past it, and they'll be like, you got to stop at the bookstore today. And I'll go, and it's always buy one, get one half off day. And I always find like a box of books that they're just so invaluable to me, whether it be hands-on healing, whether it be organic gardening, whether it be, honestly, remembering your karmic past and trying to figure out where you are in this life as opposed to where you were 5, anything like that. And I always, every time they tell me to go, boy, I go and I'm coming out of there with like a box of books for like $10-15 that to me are like gold.
Yeah.
Because when I go to Barnes & Noble, and I love Barnes & Noble, let me tell you, I could spend 8 hours there, no problem. But unfortunately, financially, I don't have the budget to substantiate me buying everything on the shelf. I've noticed the last couple of years, you're just not seeing that stuff.
No.
And that brings me to another point real quick I want to tell you about. I told you about the book the other day. I spoke to Aura. You've spoken about Aura in your past interviews, your other half that came forward the other night. And he put it best to me. When I was talking before about people being, we're all energetic beings, Whitley Strieber, the gentleman who wrote Communion, if anybody knows the history of him, I don't even know the history of him except, he wrote a bunch of books and made a bunch of movies and became a multimillionaire on his books and movies. And because he came out with the fact that he had several contacts with aliens and alien abductions, he was brought out in the public eye, and he was shown, or they tried to prove him to be a fraud, and he was mocked, he was mimicked. And I'd heard part of an interview he had done, where he said he was penniless and broke. He had absolutely nothing and had to start over. Well, he wrote a book called The Key. Find that on a bookshelf, I challenge you, without having to special order it from Barnes & Noble. I think it's a very important book. It speaks to us karmically about the lessons that we're experiencing now. It's all directly related to our karma as a whole, as a human race. In other words, Hitler's Nazi Germany, okay, and the thousands of people that were allowed to perish in the most torturous, inhumane, horrible ways imaginable. As a whole, humanity is now paying the price for that karmically.
Yeah.
We're forced to pay the price because we allow that to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and so everything that we do bad as an individual toward one person is like a ripple effect on the water. And if you picture in your mind's eye thousands of people perishing by evil, okay, and then you picture that on a planetary level, us paying the sins for that person, in a sense.
Yeah.
Karmically, that's why we're going through, I believe, and what I've been shown, what we're going through now. Now, Aura described it to me perfectly. The reason that so many people are opening up and becoming aware of what's going on behind the scenes and with our heads of state and the things that they're trying to do is because intrinsically, we as an individual human being, let's say me, I'll pick on me, you know, there is good and there is bad in me. And if I've done bad towards someone and I refuse to recognize it, and I say, well, you know what, I'm not a bad person because, you know, I just don't want to, I don't want to think about being mean to Aunt Gracie 2 weeks ago or making her cry. I want to focus on the good, and I'm going to put the bad stuff that I've done under the carpet. I'm going to brush it aside. And I'm not going to say I'm sorry to her for treating her that way. And I'm not going to make it right. And I'm not going to, in turn, help 3 more people because I hurt Aunt Gracie. Because I feel that now I need to compensate for not just making her feel bad and being right by her, but I want to overcompensate and go and help, let's say, 3 or 5 more people. Because we don't understand this in ourselves, we're being forced to recognize it and deal with it in our heads of state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a mirror effect, basically.
A mirror effect. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I said to Aura. It's like a mirror effect. So he feels that karmically, and that goes right in time with what Whitley Strieber wrote in The Key, in which a being appeared to him in a hotel room when he was doing like a book signing or something and gave him all of this secret earth knowledge. And I believe it was St. Michael. Okay. But Aura also came through and said, we're being forced to recognize by these people in power that they're doing bad things because we refused rather to recognize in ourselves, you know, the bad that we were doing on a daily basis, some of us.
Yeah.
You okay? All right. So, okay, after the darkness, yeah, it's basically a start over. It's back to basics. There's no electricity. There are no computers. Another reason I was driven and have been driven to collect these books is because people, I encourage you, if you see something on the website, I've been trying to share things, holistic health things on my website. If you see something from Mike or Ira's websites that you like, print it out, make a binder. Keep a hard copy because computers aren't going to be here anymore in a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and we need to have that written word. And another thing that's going to be intrinsically important is we need to share what we know with others so that, let's say, God forbid, I perish tomorrow. Whatever knowledge I had inside of me was passed to another person so that they can extend that knowledge. And that's going to be very much like it was in ancient civilizations and native cultures where things were passed down orally generation to generation, because we're just not going to have the technology that we do now for quite some time after this occurs.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we need to catch a break here real quick.
Oh, okay.
But when we come back, we're definitely going to touch again more into that subject because that is something really important, I think, and definitely need to have people pay attention to. We also want to talk more about the positive outcome of all of this because that is actually the most important aspect of it all, I think. To me, anyways. So hang out with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes. The Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network is deeply devoted to you, the listener. We feel it is necessary to bring you all of the information that you can use in your life. Each and every day you will find something to listen to here. And whether you come away from the shows informed, inspired, or entertained, it is our passion. We don't bow to corporations, and we don't have handlers to tell us what not to talk about. We bring you everything. Late Night in the Midlands, however, is fully listener-supported. We need your help to stay on the air and to make sure that we get the bills paid. We need your help to keep the truth alive. If you feel that you have gotten anything out of Late Night in the Midlands, we would appreciate your support. You can become a subscriber and help us out on a monthly basis, or if you'd like, a one-time donation is fully appreciated as well. Every year, the average household in America spends over $3,000 on entertainment alone. If you could help us with just a tiny fraction of that amount, you would make all of the difference. Go to latenightinthemidlands.com and click on the subscribe button. Thank you, and as always, keep yourself informed. Hello again. Welcome back. My name is Ira, and you are listening to Open Eyes. Tonight we are having an awesome conversation with Maggie Hart. And before the break, we were talking about some of the particulars of the vision that she had, as well as me. And we wanted to get into a little bit more of that. And I believe you said that you had some things to talk about as far as that specific on the 3 days of darkness was concerned, correct?
Yes. As I said to you before, there were very few people, in fact, just one other person that I had shared the entirety of my vision with, for several different reasons. Mostly it was a trust issue on my part. I have to be honest with you. You know, my visions are very private to me. And unless I really, I'm reading a person and I feel that I need to share that aspect of what I'm seeing as it relates to them, a lot of stuff I just kind of keep to myself, absorb, and try and help people likewise, in relation to what I've seen. But there is one person that I've connected with on a really deep level that has been researching the stuff for many, many years, and has able to be kind of like put some of these puzzle pieces for me together, in that, how do I explain it? When I see portions of the visions, as you and I have been explaining that we do, and with each time increasing clarity, or maybe a really particular part of a particular vision that day, and then maybe 2 days later another piece of it, there were pieces for me that were missing, and that still are. I don't have all the answers. I'm being shown things a little bit at a time, and as I mentioned, with them wanting to protect my unconscious, just because I don't think that they think I would be mentally able to handle it all at once if they were just to fling it at me, and let's say a 3-hour vision nonstop. And I concur. It's better for me to have a little bit of time in between and kind of absorb and reflect on what I've seen and put that into context with what's happening with me personally and with the world now, and then just kind of roll it over in my mind and formulate opinions and ideas on how I can take what I've seen, what they've shown me, and make the most of it, have the highest impact in order to be able to help people with it. So this particular buddy of mine, I was explaining what I had seen as far as the dark period and the just ever engulfing sense of evil being around me no matter where I was. It was just, I couldn't escape it. And I was seeing all of these horrible faces and creatures and things like that. And he says to me, have you ever heard of Padre Pio? And I said, well, I know that he's a Catholic saint. I did know that he had stigmata. A friend of mine who had a near-death experience, a peer of mine, and I like to consider him a friend, and his wife, who's also a psychic. He had an NDE, and he actually had the glove of Padre by a messenger of the church, and he was able to hold this glove and was miraculously healed. So I had heard of Padre Pio as having the gifts of stigmata, but I didn't know that he was also a prophet in a sense. And so he says to me, and I'm telling him about the darkness and what I felt and everything I had seen. He's like, you got, and ever increasingly insistent, you've got to watch this video right now. Just get on Skype. You got to watch this YouTube video. So he directed me toward, if you type in Padre Pio on YouTube and then just type in 3 Days of Darkness, you'll see there are many videos that come in up on the search. And the one that he showed me was like about a half hour long. It has a black background with white letters, and you just read the prophecy as he describes it as it came to him.
Okay, so not to interrupt you, but real fast, if people want to go to my website and to the particulars of this show, the show notes will be found at openeyesnetwork.com/OE079. I'll have actually the link to that YouTube video there on the show notes for this show, so you guys can go and watch it.
Great. That makes it easier for people like me who are computer challenged, The other site that he directed me to is if you write in the number 3, type in the number darkness. It's 3daysofdarkness.com, and it's got a brown background, and you'll see like a storm picture at the top of it. That was the other site that he directed me to. Now, so I'm reading through this stuff, and I'm definitely resonating with it. It feels right. It feels good. And I'm seeing things in writing that I had seen in my visions. So, there definitely is something to that. And, that also was in keeping with, people even from years ago having these visions, Ira, of what you and I and many other people across the country are seeing. And it's all correlating. These puzzle pieces are all fitting together. But personally for me, it really brought it home because I'm like, holy cow. I'm seeing it in writing by a famous prophet, bits of what I've seen. Taking it to a different level, though, this, people should know going in, this is strictly the 3 days of darkness, and the Padre Pio is coming solely from a Catholic or a Christian standpoint. So know that going in. They're asking you to repent for your sins and for you to pray for forgiveness. And during that 3 days of darkness, what the videos say, or what the 3 days of darkness, the written one, says, is that you're supposed to lock yourself inside your home with enough food and water for 3 days. Your animals, everything should be secure inside the home. And then you're supposed to cover tape or a clear poly, is how it was shown to me, a plastic, cover all of your doors and windows to prevent this poisonous gas that you and I both saw, Ira, from seeping into the home and protecting you physically from the poisonous gases. And then it goes farther and states that you're supposed to cover every single window and doorway with dark cloth, so that you cannot see out your windows. And then the site not to, for any reason, look out your doors and windows during these 3 days, because if you do, ostensibly you will perish as soon as you do. The other thing that the website says, or doesn't say, but that my friend told me he had read in other sites, was that the demons, the way that the evil is going to come to us when we're inside our homes, supposed to be, asking for forgiveness and praying, is that they're going to come to us in the form of deceased family members. So, and this really resonates with me very strongly, because a couple of months ago, I heard Michael or somebody talking about black-eyed children, or he asked me on my interview, what about the black-eyed children? And I was like, what's that? I'm thinking, I never heard of them. So I became drawn to learn about what are these black-eyed children? What do they do? How come I've never heard about it before? And again, not somebody who watches television or, things like that on a regular basis. I had no idea. And I had missed that show or shows with Michael. So I researched it. My friend sent me a YouTube link, and I discovered that these children are, I think, very evil, demonic things. And what they do is it's like a vampire. The essence is they come to your door. They can't come in unless you invite them in. Okay? Well, during these 3 days of darkness, these demonic beings that are outside trying to get in to overtake you or your soul, or whatever their purpose is they call to you from outside wanting to come in. But the duplicity there is they're pretending to be your loved ones. They're pretending to be people that were or are close to you that are trying to get in ostensibly for you to save them. And that's the trickery there. You cannot answer the door, open the door, or look out your doors and windows, or immediately you will perish. So that's what the 3daysofdarkness.com tells you about. It gives you, and I can't remember the steps, but first off, there's supposed to be like a warning where everybody gets this awakening, I guess, where they're shown their lives, and to me it resonates with your life review. When you pass over and go to the other side, you sit before your peers and your higher beings, your elders, let's say, and you're shown like a movie, much like I see my visions, a cinematic kind of portrayal of your entire life and the people that you affected and how you affected them, in the ways that you spoke to them, the ways that you treated them. And there's no judgment there. They show you this and they let you decide what you could have done differently in each instance. It's kind of like that. You're showing
it's
your
just
whole
like with
life review.
it's just like with a football game or a football team or another sports team or something like that. They record the other teams, or they record the game that's being played, and after the game's over, they watch the footage of the game over and over and see, hey, this is where you did this. You should have done this. You should have gone that way instead of this way. You see how that ended up, and on and on and on. It's the exact same type of thing. There's no judgment to it all or anything like that. It's just, here's what you did. Here's what you could have done. Here's the results of both of them. Which way would you rather have gone?
Right, exactly. And that sets the precedent for you to decide how you want to come into the next life.
Yep.
Right? Okay. So these spirits or these demons outside, it's the same type of thing as the black-eyed children or the vampire. They can't come in unless invited, and you're not supposed to look outside the window because you're not supposed to see the wrath that's being bestowed upon the planet for the people who did not, when they were shown that life review, pretty much convert or repent or ask for forgiveness, depending on what your personal beliefs are. So it's during this life review that you're given the ultimate last chance to repent and become what you're supposed to be and fall back into, in the 3daysofdarkness.com, fall back into the grace of God and ask for prayer, prayer for forgiveness, prayer to come back into the holy, into God's flock, I guess, as it were. And then after that, there is, I think, a day where there's like a very stormy day. I'm not really, again, I've only read it once. And then, they tell you all of the signs that the end is, coming, this end battle is coming. And they mention things like war and death and, things like that, different signs to look for so that you know that this is coming. Well, we've already encountered all of the examples that they've given in that website now. They've already happened. And then, okay, you have the chance to repent, you have the chance to convert. Then you have, I think it's the stormy day. And that's really your indication that whatever's going to come is impending. And now my friend tells me too, which I forgot to mention earlier, that in between your day where you're shown your sins and what you can do to repent and ask for forgiveness is there's a miracle. And I think he said it was in France, where a miracle happens, and that's your ultimate sign right there. Then when you see that, when you hear about that on the news or whatever, that it's really close. Then there's a day of storming, I think, and then it's after that, and we never know when, is when, the fireball that I see comes and the destruction starts. So,
and that's when the actual, that's when the actual 3 days actually takes place is after that fireball period. It's in that frame right there.
Yep. Right after that fireball. That's when it was like right after that is when you're supposed to be sealed into wherever you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be sealed into wherever you're supposed to be before the fireball hits. You're shown the atonement. You're supposed to repent. Then there's a really stormy day, I think. And then it's somewhere right after that miracle that it's coming. Now, the followers of Nebaru, again, I haven't researched any of this. I've listened to a couple of Michael's show. I've watched like one YouTube video rather. That's supposed to be coming close in the next, year and a half or something.
Yeah, nobody really knows for sure, but that's okay. One of the claims, yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if that's what I'm seeing in my vision, but it fits the piece of the puzzle. Okay. So again, I don't know for sure if it's that, but it fits my piece of the puzzle. So let's say it's that, or like you were saying the other day, a rogue planet, whatever. My friend says, you're going to see that off in the horizon. You're going to see that thing in the sky and there's no denying it. That's when you need to be locked down, sealed into wherever you need to be with your plastic to, keep out the poisonous gases and your windows covered for 3 days. And then after the 3 days of, you're not letting these bad things in, you're praying, you're atoning for your sins, you're asking for forgiveness. Actually, you've already asked for forgiveness, which is why you're still surviving. Okay. So then, you go through these 3 days of darkness, and then after that is we start over, essentially. And I apologize. The reason that again, I've only been on that website once and read it once, so I'm not really familiar with all the particulars. I just know that parts of it really resonated with the vision that I saw. So like, I didn't see like a stormy day and all of that. And I didn't see the day of, where everybody's shown their sins. I haven't seen that yet. Not to say that that won't come to me in a future vision, but so that's why I'm a little fuzzy on that. So if it seems like I'm kind of tripping over myself there, that's why.
Right. You're just describing what they're talking about.
Fireball to darkness to death to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Fireball to death to darkness to now I'm in a situation where I've had to relocate, my family, the people close to me. And then the next part of it that I see is the people were described to you earlier, the basement, us helping people. We formed our own like little team, our little community. And I see that all over the place, and I see us scavenging for things that we need. And then, I see, many different things, ways that we obtain what we need. One of which is, the people that I saw sitting there at the kitchen table, and it was really horrible for me when I was shown this, but I was there, okay? I was in that part of the vision, and I was physically opening the door. I saw the people in the kitchen who had perished, and I could smell the smells and all of that. And there was someone with me to my left. It was a guy, and I don't know who that was. But he was telling me, you need to go into the house. And I remember being just overwhelmed and thinking to myself, this doesn't make any sense to me. If a fireball killed these people, why is the house still intact? Why are they still in their home, but yet charred as though they died from a fire, and still at their kitchen table with their coffee virtually untouched? And that was a symbol for me, I think. And the guy was telling me in my vision, the man to my left, you need to go in. This is for our survival. You need to gather all of the things that we need for your and your family's survival. And I remember being very, very upset and very distraught and feeling these people. And then I'm smelling these smells and I'm tasting it in my mouth, and I'm consciously saying, this doesn't belong to me. I can't go in here and take these things that don't belong to me. And we need to do something with the bodies of these perished people. We can't just leave them here. And what do we do now? And so many horrible thoughts were going through my mind. And this person to my left, gentleman who's part of my team, keeps saying, come on, we got to go, Mag. You got to get in here. We got to get what we got to get. It's left here for us. Go up in the medicine chest, get the food, do this, do that. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I don't know if I can do this consciously, and he just keeps pushing me. You have to. This is how we're going to live. This is how it's going to be. So there was that part of it, and then, it essentially, we start over. I see us making, growing our herbs and making oils and making soap. And, it's a very, very archaic, Quaker, Shaker, old school Native American, very back to basic. We have nothing, and we have to start over, and forage for what we need and make what we don't have, and again, this is where the strong sense of community comes into play. And this is why I know I've been driven so hard to tell people so many times, form bonds with people, make those connections, find people who are good at skills that you're not, and work with them, barter with them, because essentially there is going to be no more money system. This is going to be our way of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to make sure to clarify for people who are listening that the things that are there on, like, for instance, that 3daysofdarkness.com website, that is one person's interpretation of a vision that they were given. They were given it this person was given their vision, and they were looking at it from a very religiocentric type of viewpoint. So that doesn't necessarily mean that this is, a Christian thing, that only Christians are going to survive and so on and so forth. No, what it is it's one person's interpretation of the vision that they were given, just like my interpretation says a thing and Maggie's interpretation says a thing. We're coming at it from our own personal viewpoints and our own personal belief structures. So just because you see something on there that's of a religious orientation, it doesn't necessitate that it is a religious thing that is occurring, basically. And I wanted to make sure to clarify that, because for me, what I see happening, just to give my own interpretation of things, is that the 3 days of darkness is essentially a congealing of all of the negative things, the evils basically that have happened throughout the history of mankind and Earth, and that this darkness is not even necessarily a quote unquote darkness, but that it is a smoke that is so thick as to be completely black, like a hugely thick, deep black fog, essentially, and that this is the physical manifestation of the negative karma, essentially, that has been generated. And this is essentially a way of negating that karma and bringing everything back to its balance. That's my personal viewpoint on it, and I don't know what yours might be, but you can go from there. But I just wanted to make sure to clarify that what is seen there is not necessarily the end all be all of it all. So
no, I mean, absolutely. Like I said, for me, it put together pieces of a puzzle, and it resonated very well with what parts of what my visions were, and kind of filled in some missing pieces for me. So, I want people to take this knowledge that you and I are sharing this evening and, understand that, again, I do want to reiterate that we're going out on a really big limb here, and I'm not doing this for personal gain, and I know that Ira isn't either. And it's fine. Anybody who does not believe what we have to present here tonight, that's your own personal choice. What I'm asking you to do, though, however, is in light of saving so many physical human beings from what I've personally seen perishing, and I got to be honest, I've never been wrong in a vision, okay? Again, I hope to God I'm wrong, okay? But I've never been wrong in a vision, and there are so many people seeing such remarkably close visions to what Ira and I are seeing. And here you have now Catholic people, and Padre Pio is now a saint, who had stigmata, highly spiritual people. This was back like in the 1950s, I think he wrote this.
Yeah,
Didn't it say that in 1950?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, we've been seeing this, and we're starting to see this, and more of us are seeing this vision for a reason. Ira and I had no idea we had seen the same vision until we spoke about it. There's a reason for everything. And the only thing that I ask you to do is just be open to it, research it, put your spin on it, however your personal belief structure works. That's fine by me. But I do ask you all listening to the show just to be open enough to understand that if you can have an openness of mind to believe in a Sasquatch or aliens or the evil in our government structure or angels or demons, then at least be open enough to hear what we have to say and let it absorb and consider it to be true. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I want to make sure to come at all of this with before we have to end, because we're starting to run a little short on time, but I wanted to make sure to refer to the fact that there is no real negative message with this. In fact, if anything, it is a positive message, because by the time that all is said and done, by the time that this event ends up occurring, we see that the human race does continue on, that we do keep going forward, and that this is a chance basically to start everything everything again, because with the way that the systems are right now, we know that things aren't sustainable. We know that evil and corruption is in control. This is the way basically that it needs to happen to get everything to go with a fresh start. So there is a positive message with it all, even though it does contain some negative things, basically.
Exactly. And, if there's one thing that I can suggest to people, again, California, I see Florida, the East Coast, Ira sees the East Coast. If you're able to, and if nothing else, you're considering a change and move, this might be the time to do it. Go someplace safer, higher elevations, mountains, or where they always show me is a safer place to reside. And keep in mind, too, that as this all transpires and as it all occurs, and Ira, and I have gone back and forth with the tennis ball, when's the time frame, and everybody's question is going to be, when is this going to happen?
Yeah.
It's imminent. I feel it's ever coming. It's imminent. They're pressing me more and more to prepare, to get ready, to learn things that I haven't learned before. There's really an urgency to this. I gotta feel it's the next year and a half to 2. Ira, I don't know what your personal thoughts are on that. It could be tomorrow, for all I know, but it is imminent. And, I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that, Ira?
Well, I will say that for my own interpretation of it and the way that things have been pressing with me, yes, it is definitely imminent. It is ever present. However, for me, the way that things were shown to me, and I think that it was shown to you the same way, but you just haven't really mentioned it, is that the more people start changing their ways of doing things, start changing their attitudes and changing to be more open and honest with each other, the less likely it is. It's like a heat map, basically, or a barometer. Right now, it's starting to peg at that high mark, but the more people do for each other, instead of asking the question, how much can I take? And instead asking, how much can I give? That sort of thing, the less this is going to be imminent, essentially. It brings it down.
That's exactly my point with coming forward with this in, previous interviews is, again, I'm a light worker. I'm given the message constantly, promote positivity, explain to people they need to network, work together, have no fear. Be righteous in what you know is right. Do the right thing. Help others. That was the initial goal. If we can raise our vibration and still obtain that, this may not happen.
Exactly.
But what I've been shown, and what I've seen is that it's really not enough people are doing the kind, good things and being helpful to others as they need to be. And so therefore, that's why they show me this as being imminent, because we're just not vibrating high enough as quickly enough as we need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that mean we stop trying? Hell no.
Exactly.
Of course not. Keep going. Help each other. Do as much as you can for your fellow human beings and, be a good person.
Yeah, because it's just the right thing to do. It's the right way to be. It's what you're meant to do as a human being here.
And the more that you're positive, the energy of people being positive and helping each other is negating the negativity on the other end.
You got it.
Okay? You're diminishing their power, their negativity. You're diminishing their fear when you're standing up to them and doing the right thing rather than taking the easy way out. Should I steal that $1 candy bar? No, I should pay for it. Take the righteous way. And that's what's going to help us get through.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great way to end all of this, because we're ending it on a good, positive note. Help each other out. Be the person that you want to be, be the person that is the right way to be. If you're doing things that you wouldn't want to tell your grandmother about, then don't do it. That's what I look at it with. Anyways, Maggie, do you have any final messages you want to give out?
I don't, other than, again, it's been such a pleasure. I feel so blessed to be able to do these interviews with you and with Michael. I love this network. I would really encourage people, you know, as much as you can, if you have a few extra bucks, throw it their way, because these guys work awfully hard, and it's all contributor support. They don't get paid for doing this, and they work so hard to spread truth and spread the word and, you know, enable people like myself the opportunity to come on and speak about things that are of importance to them. That this is truly a unique situation here, and they really rely on us to keep going, and they're so important to have as that pool of knowledge. And they're doing this all for nothing. You know, so if you can throw them a couple bucks, please do so. Please do so. Join that chat room, man. That is a riot.
That place is a place of positivity, if nothing else, right there.
Oh, it sure is. There's some awesome people on there. You know, join the Facebook pages. Show your support for these people, because their shows are truly individual. They've got so many awesome shows on this network, and they're really good people. Really good people. And you'll hear about everything from ghosts to UFOs to that what's that new show?
Oh, the Opperman Report. Yeah.
I love that guy.
He's awesome.
You know, treasure hunting, you know, and I love his voice. And, you know, and you've got you've got something new you're working on coming out. And Ryan's show. Ryan is so amazingly concise. The way that he speaks, the way that he presents himself. Oh, boy, I just wish I could be as clear and concise and give my views to people during an interview. Like, I really admire him. Michael's amazing. You know, I've been listening to Michael for years, and it's really a great place to be. And if you're going to give a couple bucks to anybody, give it to these guys. They deserve it. They really do.
Thank you. Definitely appreciated. And don't forget, actually, I know you don't have a website right now, but actually my wife and I are working on a website for you. So, real soon you're going to be able to visit maggiehart.com and be able to get all the information and be able to, communicate with you directly through your website as well. So there you go. That's one thing for you. maggiehart.com, and it's very soon to come. So
right now you can just Maggie-Violet Nile on Facebook. You can get a hold of me that way. Yeah, again, see, we're not out to do this to get rich and famous, or I would have all these sites going. You know,
got it. Yep.
But thank you again, Ira, for such a wonderful. I got to tell you, this one has been very mentally challenging for me. I'm tired. I'm tired. But it was a great interview. Thank you so much, as always, for the opportunity. I really appreciate you as a person and your wife as people, and for the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maggie, for being here. I really appreciate it. So, guys, there you have it. Thank you so much for listening tonight. This ending is going to be really short because I'm running short of time. But if you want to go to the show notes for this show, go to openeyesnetwork.com/OE079. If you want to send me an email, send it to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. Go to our Facebook and Twitter pages at Open Eyes Network or Ira Robinson. And until next time, guys, keep safe out there and have fun. And thank you so much for listening.